Welcome to China in Focus. I'm Don Ma in for Tiffany Meyer today. Our top story, a U.S. delegation is in Taiwan showing support for the island's incoming government. Details on what Washington is saying about Taiwan's new leadership. On the other hand, how is the Chinese military reacting to Taiwan's new president? Footage of open-fire cannons and warships offer up clues. Taiwan losing one of its few remaining diplomatic allies in favor of China. That's just 2 days after the global chip hub elected a new leader whom Beijing rejects. And the Philippines gearing up to transform and upgrade islands in the South China Sea for its troops, while the territory contends with claims from Beijing. After Taiwan's historic presidential race, a group of former U.S. officials took a trip to the island to meet with its new leadership. What are some of the challenges ahead for the new administration, especially when it comes to China policies? NTD's Sam Wong has the details.
We look forward to continuity in the relationship between Taiwan and the United States under the new administration, and for common efforts to preserve cross-strait peace and stability.
During a meeting with Taiwan's top leadership, former U.S. National Security Advisor Stephen Hadley pledged rock-solid commitment to the island, and President-elect William Lai responded.
I believe our relationship will advance in a stable direction through our continuous hard work and become an important force to safeguard the peace and prosperity of the Indo-Pacific.
A number of countries have congratulated Lai for his victory, including the U.S., Britain, Japan, and the Philippines. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said that the election has demonstrated the strength of Taiwan's robust democratic system and electoral process. Beijing responded quickly to Blinken's comment, accusing the U.S. of sending a gravely wrong signal to those supporting Taiwan's independence, while slamming Japan's congratulatory message as a serious interference. The White House has expressed concern too. The Biden administration fears Lai's transition of power could further escalate tensions with Beijing. When asked about Saturday's election outcome, President Biden responded that the U.S. doesn't support Taiwan's independence. William Lai will face a divided parliament, which could be a roadblock for his administration to pass legislation and spending. For decades, the Chinese Communist Party sees the self-governed island as a breakaway territory and has vowed to annex it by force if necessary. That's despite never having ruled it. The regime has referred to the election as a choice between peace and war, even criticizing those who congratulated William Lai's victory. Lai's inauguration is slated to take place on May 20th this year. Sam Wong, NTD News.
Missile boat attack. That's the message from the Chinese military coming just a day after Taiwan's presidential election. Over the weekend, Beijing's Eastern Theater Command, which is stationed in the area around Taiwan, released pictures on its social media WeChat account, showing missile boats performing live fire drills. The post didn't say where the exercises were happening. One of the boat's pictures was developed from another vessel used during a battle between the Chinese and Taiwanese navies where China claimed victory. Political analysts say rocky relations are likely ahead for Taiwan and Communist China following the island's election over the weekend.
Beijing is going to look at DPP that has about 40% or so of the votes only and loses majority in the parliament. And Beijing is going to think maybe if it just pressures Taiwan a little bit harder, it'll be enough to make a difference in the next election. And so Beijing has reason to want to push rather than trying to extend the olive branch. So that's going to entail instability likely going forward.
Wen Di-song from the Atlantic Council's Global China Hub pointed to the breakdown of the votes. He said since neither of the two major parties won a majority in parliament, a decisive third party now has a presence. And that structure would involve more bargaining in the policy-making process when it comes to cross-strait relations. Song said that Beijing will only provide more stabilizing moves toward Taiwan if it thinks the next government of Taiwan has staying power. Taiwan already facing challenges just 2 days after its election. Nauru, an island nation near the Central Pacific, is cutting diplomatic ties with Taiwan. Now, Taiwan accusing Beijing of siphoning its partners. Here's more.
Taiwan lost one of its few remaining diplomatic allies, Nauru, to China on Monday. It comes just days after Taiwan elected a new president and accused China of attempting to suppress its diplomatic space. China claims Taiwan as its own territory, with no right to state-to-state ties, a position Taiwan strongly disputes. For years, the two have traded accusations of using dollar diplomacy as they compete for diplomatic recognition. A senior Taiwan official briefed on the matter said Beijing is offering Nauru $100 million a year. A Nauru government spokesperson declined to comment. Taiwan's Deputy Foreign Minister Tian Cheng-kuang said the quote ambush-like move came suddenly. He accused China of seeking revenge on Taiwan for holding democratic elections.
In order to maintain our sovereignty and dignity, we have decided from this very day to end diplomatic relations with Nauru, halt all bilateral plans for cooperation, withdraw the embassy and repatriate technical personnel, and will demand for Nauru to shut its embassy in Taiwan.
China confirmed the renewal of relations with Nauru, which previously recognized it between 2002 and 2005. China's foreign ministry did not directly answer a question on how much money it had offered. Taiwan security officials told Reuters before Saturday's election that China was likely to continue to whittle away at the countries that maintain formal diplomatic ties with Taipei. Its 12 remaining diplomatic allies include the Vatican, Guatemala and Paraguay, plus Palau, Tuvalu and the Marshall Islands in the Pacific.
Taiwan's election could ease global concerns about the island's relations with China. At the same time, it's prompting a light domestic sell-off on Monday. Investors are worried that the election results could hinder economic policy, but they're also seemingly relieved that William Lai won't push for Taiwan's formal independence. Investors expect some knee-jerk selling of Taiwan stocks and even currency this week. As Taiwan's election wraps up, many questions still linger. Will U.S.-Taiwan relations be different with William Lai at the helm? What challenges will he face as his party lost a legislative majority? We talked to Rupert Hammond Chambers, president of the U.S.-Taiwan Business Council, for more. And thanks for being here with us, Rupert. So first off, I want to ask you, Biden saying that the U.S. does not support Taiwan independence. How do you feel about that?
The president chose to make a statement more directed towards Beijing than towards Taipei, and perhaps missed the opportunity, missed the moment to celebrate Taiwan's democracy.
So Nauru cutting ties with Taiwan. What are your thoughts on that? Is that significant?
Well, yes, it is significant. I mean, one, it showed that the Chinese were ready to demonstrate their unhappiness with the choice that Taiwan voters had made. I mean, it came really within almost a 24-hour news cycle, that the severing of ties, so it had to have been hammered out before Saturday. So what we're seeing here is a continuation of China's efforts to ultimately draw in all of Taiwan's remaining diplomatic allies. China's policy towards Taiwan will remain the same. I think the Chinese are going to continue to pursue their coercive policies. China would appear to be to click back towards what it's been doing to contain Taiwan through restricting its international space, through gray zone activities on the ocean and in the air, and possibly some economic punitive actions through the Economic Cooperation Framework Agreement. But overall, China's policy will stay the same, but U.S.-China tensions are likely to remain elevated over the issue of Taiwan.
What about U.S.-Taiwan relations?
I think U.S.-Taiwan relations are going to remain stable. The president-elect definitely represents continuity. Where we're going to have to watch closely is as the chamber, the legislative yuan, has now shifted back to opposition control. We're going to have a split control of Taiwan's two primary governing bodies, the executive branch under the DPP and the legislative branch almost certainly under the KMT. We haven't seen that in 20 years. It was problematic 20 years ago. There were some real areas of disagreement that spilled out into U.S.-Taiwan relations, defense policy being the most public. And there are some concerns that come 2025, when the first budget will have to be negotiated between the DPP and the executive branch and the KMT and the legislative branch, how will this defense spending fare? Because if there's downward pressure as a consequence to opposition from the legislature and the KMT for expanded defense spending, that's going to cause problems in U.S.-Taiwan relations. Washington, D.C., irrespective of who wins the U.S. presidential election in November, will not like that outcome.
Rupert Hammett Chambers, president of the U.S.-Taiwan Business Council. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Turning out attention to the South China Sea, the Philippines is beefing up its defense amid aggression from the Chinese regime. Manila announced plans on Monday to develop its outpost islands in the region, aiming to make them more livable for troops. On the upgrade list, the second Thomas Shoal, as well as T2 Island, the biggest and most strategically important land mass in the area. The announcement follows tense standoffs between the Philippines and China. Beijing claims virtually all of the South China Sea as Chinese territory, covering about 1/3 of global shipping routes with goods worth over $3 trillion passing through every year. The area Beijing claims includes exclusive economic zones belonging to the Philippines, Vietnam, Indonesia, Malaysia, and Brunei. An international tribunal declared the Chinese regime's claims invalid in 2016. Next, we would like to take a moment to share some of your comments about our special coverage of the Taiwan election on Saturday. Almost all of our viewers congratulated Taiwan for choosing a China hawk as its president. One of our viewers from Taiwan expressed his gratitude. He said he's part of an indigenous ethnic group from Taiwan called Amos and has been living on the island for many generations. He added that Taiwanese people have been wanting peace with China in vain due to China's propaganda war machines, but Taiwan still chooses to stand with freedom as an island nation in the face of the hostility from geopolitics. And another viewer called Lomotil wrote up a key takeaways for quick navigation for our show. Don't forget to tell us what you think of our today's show. Thanks for watching. That's all for today's China in Focus on YouTube. We're now sharing a shortened version of our program here after being demonetized for more than 2 years. If you would like to support us, consider donating. Find us at donorbox.org/China-in-focus or subscribe to our partner platform Epoch TV, where you can watch our full episodes. Here's what to look out for in our second half. Washington contends with new difficulties as it works to curb semiconductors going to China. The Chinese military allegedly benefiting from loopholes. A rare move for Apple, the tech giant now offering discounts to its customers in China. That's as business there struggles to perform. And following Taiwan's election, 5 more key votes are scheduled for later this year, shining a spotlight on major countries and international bodies. What are the China angles here? More on that after the break here on China in Focus. Thanks for watching China in Focus. I'm Don Ma. See you soon.